The crowd was loud, the lights were blinding, and the cameras flashed relentlessly. The 2025 Weibo TV and Internet Video Summit was in full swing, a sea of reporters, fans, and industry insiders buzzing with excitement. Everyone's eyes were on the stage, but backstage, the tension was far more personal. Shunyu moved through the crowd with quiet determination, trying to remain invisible despite her fame. Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor as she weaved past staff and security, holding a folder against her chest like a shield. She had made her decision. Tonight, she would stay professional. She would finish her obligations, step into her spotlight, and leave. She would not linger. She would not give into the whispers of the heart she had tried so desperately to ignore. But Dylan Wang was waiting. He had arrived earlier, scanning the backstage area until he found her. His expression was unreadable, controlled, calm, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. He had noticed her walk past the crowded hall, her posture stiff, her gaze fixed straight ahead. Something in him tightened, something he hadn't felt in months. She didn't want to see him. She didn't want to confront what had been left unresolved between them. She had tried, countless times, to bury the feelings that had surfaced during their last collaboration, during those long nights of interviews, events, and rehearsals that left her heart tangled and vulnerable. And yet, despite her resolve, she didn't expect him to appear as if by instinct, standing where she would pass. Her first step past him was deliberate, quick, a subtle signal that she was not stopping, that she would not engage, that she would remain professional and leave all personal matters behind. But Dylan did not step aside. He matched her pace, moving with careful precision so that he was just a step behind, a silent shadow. He didn't speak. He didn't call her name. He merely followed, enough for her to know she was not free to simply disappear. Shinyu felt her heart rate spike. She tried to calm herself, focusing on the folder in her hands, the meetings she had to attend, the rehearsals she had to complete. Stay professional, she repeated silently. This is work, nothing more. But as she approached the exit doors leading to the VIP lounge, he finally spoke. Shinyu, he said, low and deliberate, his voice carrying through the bustling backstage. She stopped, just for a fraction of a second, enough to draw his attention fully to her, enough to make him feel the hesitation that had always pulled at him. She tried to keep her expression neutral. Yes, she asked, her voice calm, composed, carefully measured. I can't let you leave like this, he said, a statement rather than a question. His eyes were steady, unwavering, filled with the kind of intensity she had tried to avoid for months. Her chest tightened. I have to. Dylan, I can't. Before she could finish, his hand reached out. Not violently, not aggressively, but firm, decisive, and protective. He grasped her wrist gently, yet undeniably, halting her movement. The world around them blurred. The chatter, the flashing cameras, the footsteps of staff, all fell away into a quiet stillness. She looked at him, eyes wide, searching for the reasoning behind his sudden action. You're not walking away from me. Not like this, he said. His words were soft, but filled with an undercurrent of emotion she hadn't heard before. Something raw, something desperate, something honest. Shinyu's hand shook slightly beneath his grip. Dylan, this isn't the time. Not here. Not now. He shook his head slowly. No, I don't care about the time. I don't care about the crowd. I don't care about anyone else. This is between us. And you aren't walking away. Not tonight. Her eyes filled with conflicting emotions. Anger, frustration, fear, desire. She had spent months suppressing her feelings, convincing herself that detachment was strength. That moving forward meant leaving behind what Dylan represented. But in that moment, she realized the fragility of her self-imposed boundaries. You always think you can stop me, she whispered, her voice trembling. You always think you can control. I'm not controlling you, he interrupted softly, yet firmly, his gaze locking onto hers. I'm just asking you to stay, to listen, to face what we've been avoiding for months. Her chest tightened again. She wanted to pull her hand away, to retreat, to leave the backstage corridor and hide herself among the staff and the noise. But as she looked into his eyes, she realized that running was no longer an option. Not when every look he gave her, every word he spoke, carried the weight of months of unresolved tension. She swallowed, barely audible. "And if I stay, what happens next?" His expression softened, just slightly, just enough to reveal the vulnerability he never showed publicly. "We talk, honestly, without pretenses, without running, without hiding what we feel." The silence that followed was heavy. It wrapped around them, enclosing them in a space that felt private, insulated from the chaos of the summit, the flashing cameras, the buzzing staff. It was just the two of them. Her eyes flickered down, then back up. "Dylan, I don't know if I can." "You can," he said quietly. "I know you can. You've always been stronger than anyone else gives you credit for. That's why I'm not letting you walk away tonight." Her hand, still held firmly in his, felt warmth. Safety, something she had been denying herself for months. She exhaled shakily, the fight leaving her muscles as she allowed herself to simply be in that moment. Dylan released a fraction of his grip, letting her move her fingers slightly, but he didn't let go. "Not completely. Not yet. You always try to handle everything on your own," he said. "But we can't handle it separately anymore. We can't." Tears pricked her eyes despite herself. She had worked so hard to maintain control, to appear composed in front of the world. Yet here, in the backstage corridor, with Dylan standing just inches away, she felt the cracks forming in her carefully built walls. "Why now?" she whispered. "After everything, why can't I just walk away?" "Because walking away never solved anything," he said simply. "Because I've tried letting go, and it only made the longing worse. Because you—" He stopped, his breath catching for a moment as he measured his words. "Because you're the only one who matters." Her breath caught. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to maintain distance, to protect herself. Yet every fiber of her being wanted to step closer, to feel the truth of his words, to bridge the space between them that had been growing wider for months. The cameras from the summit stage occasionally flickered in the background, unnoticed by the two of them, their presence irrelevant to the gravity of the moment unfolding. Staff whispered quietly, unsure if they should intervene, but sensing the intensity of the unspoken history in the air. Shinyu finally met his gaze fully, her voice barely audible, trembling. "And what if I can't handle this? What if my heart—" "You can handle it," he interrupted gently, "because we face it together." She blinked, overwhelmed, her emotions colliding. Relief, desire, fear, and hope. Slowly, deliberately, she allowed herself to step closer, closing the gap between them. Dylan mirrored her movement, his hand still lightly on hers, not controlling but guiding, steadying. The corridor seemed to shrink around them, the noises of the